All right, y'all. Your fishing tip for today is to use floating soft plastics when the fishing gets tough. If you have conditions where you got high sun, no clouds, no wind, high pressure, lots of fishing pressure, they see a bunch of baits where you fish at, you go to a really pressured pond, or those really hot summer days where it's brutally hot, they just get down on the bottom, the fish don't want to move or do anything. Use plastics that float. You have two options when it comes to this. You can use something like the Z-Man baits that come with the elastic material, the really stretchy ones that are super, super durable. Some people like them because of their durability. You can catch 100 fish on one bait. Some people hate them because if you put them with standard soft plastics, they have a chemical reaction and they start to melt. And if you leave them in the sun, they melt. And that's a problem for some people. So you have the other option of going with standard soft plastics that come unsalted and come made with a floating plastisol. For example, these made by Softy Lure. Regular soft plastic, still highly buoyant, or a lot of the plastics out there are neutrally buoyant. You can use those. You can buy some from manufacturers that make a salted or unsalted version of certain plastics. For example, Zoom makes the Trick Worm and the Zoom Fluke. If you look at the package somewhere on there, it'll either say Super Salt Plus for the salted ones, or it will say non-salt for the ones that are not salted, depending on what color you get. They can be color dependent with Zoom. So why would you do this? What you would do is put it on a bottom rig. This doesn't really apply to certain types of soft plastics like your speed craws or your speed worms or your swim baits, because those are moving. Where I use floating soft plastics are on bottom presentations like the Drop Shot rig or the Nico rig, Ned rig, and a shaky head, or as a jig trailer. Those are times where I would use these floating soft plastics because I get a more natural presentation. I get a slower fall. If I'm using something like a wacky rig, it'll slow my fall rate. And I also get a more realistic presentation when it's not moving at all. Floating plastics look more alive than ones that don't. And I can leave it dead sticking at super slow speeds, even if it's not moving at all, and I can trigger fish to bite. It requires less action from you, less effort from you to get these baits to move underwater. On a drop shot rig, this worm will stand straight out from the line and it'll float and wave around just with the current and the wind action of you just holding the rod still in the boat. And that triggers bites when the fish just don't want to move and they're sluggish. You can just leave it in their face and it's worth it to them to come up and eat it. I also do floating soft plastics in salt water. A red fish rubbing around on the bottom, it's easier for him to see a plastic shrimp sitting up, waving around on the bottom, and he'll come right over to it and eat it. So floating plastics, when it gets really, really hard, are a good thing to go to, and you may see a dramatic increase in bites.